Well, welcome everybody. Great to be here. Let's talk about fire, shall we? Fire, plastic, climate change, fire. When plastic burn, things get very toxic. This is a normal beach, right? It looks like regular beach, maybe a beach near you. Anything strange about it? Would it surprise you to know that some of the rocks on this beach are not geological? They're entirely made of plastic. The rocks in the center are pyroplastic, polypropylene, polyethylene, so they're made from petroleum, and they were transformed by fire. Okay, so I'm going to put this down. And these were sent to me, these rocks, from Cornwall. They went all the way to New York, and then, they're going all over the place. I brought them across the pond back with me. These rocks are plastic. They're light. They float in water. They've been made by fire. Now, I want to share a couple of rocks with you because I have a lot of these, and I don't want to take them all back, so. And they're fun. They're easy to. There you go. Somebody. Okay. So what's going on here? Where did they come from is a mystery. Was it from a campfire or burning trash on the coast? No one knows. But they're going to be with us for about 100 years. Now, I have to organize myself a little bit. So what does this mean? It means that in about 70 years' time, a geologic instant, we've used so much plastic that we've laid down a layer in the sediment of the Earth's surface. And this layer is starting to burn. Let's go back to petroleum because plastic is tied to petroleum, oil, gas, coal. And here we have plastic is also tied intimately with the climate crisis we're in today. Okay. I want to tell a story about my involvement, and it started with the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico 2010. It was the first time that I had encountered burning petroleum firsthand. As a marine toxicologist, it's been said of me that I only dive when there's oil in the water. It's partly true. It makes it interesting. Anyway, I went down to the Gulf a month after the rig explosion, and I did dive in the oil spill to look into the dispersant question. And a couple of things really surprised me. One was that, for starters, petroleum oil is toxic to every organ system in the body. It rips into cells and organs. It causes internal bleeding and cancer. And mostly, what shocked me was the cover-up. BP was allowed to really lie about the oil spill. they went back to the tobacco lobby playbook of denial, deception, delay. And what happened was now today in the Gulf, there's a vast wasteland ecologically there, and millions of people have gotten sick. We're starting to see cancer clusters just like after 9/11. I got very annoyed. I became actually outraged at the arrogance of this, and I started speaking up. I gave about 3 TED Talks about it, and became really activated in a whole different way, and that's what brought me here today as well. Another story, right after the Gulf, I was asked to lead a study on firefighters, and I accepted that. Firefighters were getting cancers, and the question was why? So I want you to take a look at the top of the screen. These are firefighters going into a fire where furniture foam is burning. So it's a plastic fire, essentially. And this is a toxic soup of fire smoke enveloping the firefighters. It's something they cannot avoid inhaling, ingesting, and it gets into their skin, even wearing full gear. So today's fires are more toxic than ever before. It's because of the amount of plastics in our indoor environment and in our world generally. The plastics, as Dick said, contain thousands of chemicals, additives, plasticizers. But in a fire, what you have is incomplete combustion that is forming carcinogens, dioxins, furans, and other carcinogens, some of which have not been identified. Cancer is the leading killer of firefighters today. We know this from exposure research. It's causing multiple cancers, not just one kind of cancer, and we're seeing a shorter latency as well, especially in younger firefighters who are starting today after about 5 years. Some of them are developing rare aggressive brain cancers. Cancer is killing about more than 60% of firefighters who are line of duty active firefighters today. Much higher rate of death from cancer from burns or accidents or any other thing, or cardiac events, which did not used to be the case. Our study, which we finished in 2013, showed that indeed carcinogens were at high levels in the blood of firefighters right after a firefighting event. And we not only found high levels of flame retardants, perfluorinated chemicals, but also 100 times higher levels of dioxins and furans, brominated dioxins, in some of the firefighters. Heat makes this worse. With every increase in skin temperature of 5 degrees, you get about 400% increase in skin absorption. So the pores open up. It's like taking a toxic sauna or a cancer bath, And what's critical to understand is after the fire, while the smoke is still going, smoldering, you still have incomplete combustion, and these carcinogens are being formed. So what's happening today with us? Humans learned how to make fire to survive on the planet. Now today we're burning up that planet, and it's a planet that's encased in plastic. This is a NASA satellite image of our world on fire. It was captured at a time when there were 22 wildfires raging across Russia. There's just no place on the earth that is immune to these fires. Media has been covering this extensively. And the California Camp Fire is one of the worst fires and certainly in the U.S., the worst fire in our history. It happened last November and burned about 150,000 acres. This fire was driven by hot, gusty winds following a long series of droughts, and it swallowed up the town, which is inaptly named Paradise, California. The whole town was completely engulfed. In about 4 hours, tens of thousands of structures were completely burned, and 85 people who were trying to escape could not get out, died. After the aftermath was terrible. Over the whole Bay region, 8 million people were exposed to toxic smoke that lingered on and on for weeks. People were wearing respirators. They were not going outdoors. This is California, and it's just unheard of. Fires are sweeping across every corner of the planet: Africa, the Amazon, Brazil, and these are somewhat policy-driven fires following deforestation, but they're increasing. They're increasing exponentially, and they've increased even in the last year, since 2018. Bolivia is following suit with these policy-driven fires. Incredible destruction. Indonesia. And the fires in Indonesia are placing millions of children at risk. I want to talk about open burning. Open burning, it's about 40% of the world's garbage is burned in open pits on mountains of trash, and it's 620 million tons annually burned. In developing countries, about 90% of the waste is open burned. And this creates the same conditions we saw with the firefighters, where you have incomplete combustion, fire is smoldering 24/7 in these garbage dumps, and people are working and living on these dumps, scavenging the dumps. So you have a very, very dangerous situation that is unmonitored and unregulated. These children, they are in India, they are some of the scavengers, the families that live around the dump. The children go through the dump to pick up things of value and metals and so forth, and sometimes plastic itself. But the fires do contain quite a bit of plastic, and the children are exposed and have high rates of disease, death, and are at increased risk for cancer later on. India is considered to be a toxic nightmare now because of the amount of these burn pits and mountains of trash everywhere that are set on fire intentionally, get on fire unintentionally, and burn all the time. The World Health Organization has estimated that exposure to these dumps that are burning increases cancer risk by 19%. So this is Malaysia. Families even are starting fires with plastics to do cooking. They have no idea. And these are the children of the fire. These are the children of the plasticine that we have created. These are our children. These are the children we need to protect when we're talking about the next generation. And the question is, if we cannot protect these children now, how are we going to protect them when the industry doubles the production of virgin plastic, which they're planning eagerly to do in the next decade? I think this is why we're all here. We want to take action. Without action, there is no hope, as Greta Thunberg has eloquently said. And we have so many resources. Cyril was saying this morning The technology is there to develop alternative materials. The hope is right on the horizon. We need to move on from the fossil fuel economy. And here today, with the science, the advocacy, with all the resources we have in this room, I have no doubt that we're going to do this. Let's get it done. Thank you.